So I think the way the day is going to work out, I'm going to do a little bit of live coding, answer some questions, and we'll try to do some calls. I have my US-based phone wasn't working, so Greg was nice enough to give me a phone here. So I'm going to try to see how well that works, holding it up to the mic, and we're going to make some calls. It's going to be fun. And then after that, if you guys don't have any more questions, we're going to break for lunch. I think we're going to form teams after that, and then get the hackathon started and get that going. So.
You guys read that? No. All right. Let me see what I can do about that. It's a little washed out. Let me see. That is going to be a tactical challenge. All right. How about this? I'm going to do my code in Sublime Text, and then I'll just copy and paste it over whenever I need it. So I'm going to do some of my coding in Ruby, but our Tropo scripting platform supports a bunch of different programming languages. So what I'll do first is I'll just do a quick intro to Tropo in general. Cool. So we talked a lot about use cases and like the different types of apps that you can build with Tropo. So when we set up for the hackathon, you guys are going to get a link to a portal. And on that portal, you'll be able to do just like a few simple things. You'll be able to create your app for the first time. When you create your app, you'll get a phone number. And that'll be your phone number for the day. And you can use that phone number to make and receive phone calls. So pretty simple there. The next thing after you have your phone number, you're going to want to write some code and attach that code to the phone number. Before we dive in directly into some code, Diggs covered some of the verbs earlier. I'm just going to do a bit of a review, and then we're going to look at some code samples for each one. Just a bit of a refresher here in terms of the different types of use cases. I'm going to be focusing mostly on two categories. The first one is inbound calls. So these are, actually the terminology is a little interesting because it's inbound as far as the app is concerned. So this is your app receiving a call. So these are things like conference calling, someone calling in to fill out a survey. So you may list a phone number on a billboard and say, hey, maybe you have a relationship with like a local retailer and they want to have a phone number that you can call in and see how well they did. So you can fill out a survey, maybe have a coupon code texted to you or something. So that's actually a real use case that's actually quite popular. Again, with call center, all kinds of really cool stuff. And then we have a whole other category of outbound use cases. So this could be things like, we talked about lots of different use cases, appointment reminders and emergency notifications are actually becoming quite popular. There's some tried and true ones here. I think several people mentioned security verification. That's a huge one. I think, the internet is a scary place. People don't really trust each other's identities, and anytime you enter a phone number, more and more websites are requiring a second form of identification. So being able to call someone and verify their identity by asking them to put in a PIN is kind of a boring use case, but it's actually quite valuable. And as kind of general developers, at some point in your career, people are going to want this capability either through SMS or through voice. So we can run through an example of what that looks like. Cool. So here's a little bit of code. We're going to dive way, way deeper than this. It is a little washed out, but maybe I can head over to the screen here and give you guys a breakdown of what's happening here. So, all the way up. Hello. All right. So this is a little washed out. We're going to do some more coding in Sublime Text later. But this is using our ask verb. So we have a verb in our scripting environment called ask. And
like the name implies, it lets you ask the caller something. So if someone calls your phone number, part of what you may want to do is collect some input from them. So Tropo allows you to collect input not only using the numbers on the keypad, but also using your voice. So it's using a technology referred to as speech recognition. The details of how that actually works are actually pretty complicated, but needless to say, we've pre-integrated Tropo with many, many different speech recognition platforms to make a really wide variety of languages available to you. So in this very simple case, we're asking the caller, hey, thanks for calling. For sales, press 1. For support, press 2. So this is a very simple IVR application, but the cool thing about this is that with Tropo, just out of the box, without you doing anything special, the caller can press 1 on their phone or press 2 using the keypad, but they can also say the number 1 or say the number 2, and it'll have the same effect. So speech recognition just comes right out of the box. You can turn it off, of course. There are some applications where if you know your users are going to be in a noisy environment, then you may choose not to use speech recognition because obviously if there's a lot of noise around, then the accuracy will not be as high. I'm sure you guys are going to run into that in the hackathon. People are going to be throwing food around and breakdancing and all kinds of stuff, and it's going to make it challenging to test your speech recognition app. So we may need to create little cones of silence for people to do your testing or something. So in this example, I know it's a little hard to read, but basically what it's saying here is ask a question, these are the possible choices, and then we have an event handler. So anyone familiar with JavaScript in the browser, you're probably familiar with the concept of an event, right? So an event is something that happens in the browser. Well, typically in a web browser, events are the result of a user clicking on something or doing something in the browser. So a button on a web form may have an on-click event, or the browser window may have an on-scroll event or on-resize event for the window, right? So those are graphical events based on user interaction with the web page. So with Tropo, we use the same model than a web browser, but instead of the events being people clicking on things or dragging things around on your page, these events are things that people are saying to your app or pressing on the keypad. So it's very similar conceptually. So in this case, it says, okay, on choice. So when the caller says either 1 or 2, go to this block of code. And if you don't actually understand the code, don't worry. We support lots of different programming languages, like I said. So we support, PHP, Python, Ruby, JavaScript, Groovy. And we have sample code in like every language. But the important bit here is that we're asking something, we're giving the possible choices, and when someone speaks something into the phone, we're going to fire up this code. And what this code says is, I'm going to say, sorry, a salesperson's not available right now, if they pressed 1. And if they press 2, we're going to say this other thing. So that's like a nice thing about Ruby is you can put the if at the end of the code, which makes it read a little more naturally like English. But in another programming language, it would be like if 1, then do this, if 2, then do this other thing. Cool. So a lot more examples to come. All right, so our verbs, so the things you can do in Tropo are, I like to think of them in really 3 different categories. You have things to control the call, then you have things for asking for input and collecting input, and then finally you have other fancy media operations like conference calling and call recording and things like that. So I'm going to run through some of those real quick. Cool. So here are the call control verbs. So out of all the Tropo verbs, the ones you have available to you are answer, make a brand new call, so make an outgoing call from your app, redirect a call, reject an incoming call. So your app may get a call. You can look at the caller ID
of who's calling. Maybe look that up in a database and say, I don't want to talk to that guy. So you can just reject the call. The nice thing about that is it rejects it at the network level, so there's no billing impact and things like that. So we can talk about that in detail. And then there's transfer. So I don't know if you guys remember when Diggs was talking about the app that, so it was like user, server, and then user. So we talked about, okay, well maybe there's an IVR that transfers to a call center, or maybe there's an inbound call where the person can just say the person they want to talk to using their voice or their keypad, and then they're connected to someone else. That's a transfer. So actually, I'm going to show you real quick what something like that would look like. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to introduce a verb we haven't actually talked about, which is say, but I'll just show you real quick. Great, so, oops, I forgot, you guys can't see that. Cool, so I'm going to write this in Ruby. So in Ruby, I'm just going to say, okay, answer. And then after I answer the call, I'm going to say something. So I'm going to say, hello, wow, Tropo is so easy. Cool, and because I'm using gist, I'm just going to copy this code over to gist. How this code is being executed and how Tropo even knows to fetch this code will be obvious to you later. So I'm going to explain that. Don't worry about that right now. But basically, I'm taking this code, I'm putting it on GitHub, and through some magic, when I call this phone number, Tropo is going to fetch this code and do cool stuff. And then we'll talk about how my code was tied to that phone number after lunch. Cool, so I'm going to just click update here. I'm going to take my phone out. All right, let's see, turn the volume up.
Tropo's so easy.
All right. All right. All right. But it is cool. It is cool. It is cool. But it's it's not so cool because I'm actually doing it myself. So what I'm going to ask is for a few of you to just call my app because it's way cooler when you can call it yourself. So here's the phone number. How about a few of you give it a try? I should probably make that bigger for you. Yeah. So this is just a local number. It's just a local number. You guys are going to call into my Tropo app, and oops.
Is it for free?
Huh?
When me calls the number, is it for free?
Yeah, it's not a premium rate number. Yeah, so no, it costs $7 million. Right. This is actually how I make my money. I travel and get people to call my app. And then I fly away in my private jet. I'm like, whoa! Cool. All right, so a few of you have tried it. You know that I'm not cheating you. Like, this is not like a pre-recorded prompt on my phone or anything like that. All right, cool. Great. So anyways, I'm gonna, just to show you that this is actually like a real thing. I'm going to, change the prompt a little bit. I'm going to be like, hello, are you serious? That's all it takes to change my app? Oops, I got a little case of the rubies. All right, cool. All right, so not to belabor the point here, I'm just trying to show you guys that I'm just typing something in a web browser.
Are you serious? That's all it takes to change my app?
That's amazing. I don't know if you guys are realizing how amazing this is. I just typed something into a web page, and then I called the number, and I'm like interacting with the phone system. I mean, this is pretty cool stuff. It's pretty cool stuff, and it was 2 lines of code. And to be honest, I kind of cheated because Tropo's so easy, you don't even have to answer the call. I just kind of put that in there to show you the answer thing. But I could have just done a say, and then Tropo would have said, well, he hasn't answered the call yet, duh, let me answer for him, and then say the thing. So it really is just 1 line of code to deliver a message to your users. So